Hey everyone, it's Professor Clark, and in this lecture we're going to look at adjective endings in the dative case. This again is pretty straightforward, but adjectives can be a little bit tricky because of their tendency to have velar and husher endings. So we're going to take a quick look at the dative case for adjectives. Let's jump right in with masculine and neuter endings. And in all cases other than the nominative, adjectives modifying masculine and neuter nouns take the same endings. So it doesn't matter whether it's referring to a masculine noun or a neuter noun. If it's not nominative or accusative inanimate, it will take the same ending for both masculine and neuter. And if they are hard stem or velar stem adjectives, they're going to take omu. So, k novomu profesoru, к красивому морю, к русскому человеку. So the first two, новый and красивый, are hard stem, and the third adjective, русский, is velar stem. And note that it doesn't matter whether the noun that it modifies is hard stem, soft stem, velar stem, or husher stem. The important thing is the gender of the noun. So if the noun is masculine or neuter, regardless of its hardness or softness, then we're going to add these masculine neuter endings. And the important thing as far as hard stem, soft stem, velar stem, husher stem is the stem of the adjective itself. So you can have a hard stem adjective like красивый with a soft stem noun like море, and the adjective is going to take hard stem endings and the noun will take soft stem endings. However, they will both be dative neuter singular. That is the important thing. We don't have a huge number of soft stem adjectives, but there are a few, and there are some really important words like последний, last, that are soft stem. And in that case, they're going to take ему. So, к последнему преподавателю, к синему морю, to the last instructor, to the dark blue sea. And again, it doesn't matter whether the noun is hard stem or soft stem as far as the hardness or softness of the adjective. The adjective has its own hardness or softness. What matters is the gender of the noun. So they're both going to be in dative. That was pretty straightforward. Where it gets complicated is if we have husher stem adjectives, because in that case we have to worry about where the stress is. So if the stress falls on the stem of a husher stem adjective, which is going to be most of them, we're going to add ему because we can't have an unstressed o after a husher. So хороший is going to become к хорошему другу, to a good friend. Следующий, next, is going to be к следующему человеку, to the next person. However, if we have an n-stressed husher stem adjective like большой, that's the main one, we're going to add omu rather than ему. So большой becomes большому, к большому театру, up to the Bolshoi Theater. What about feminine endings? It's important to remember this very happy thing that feminine adjective endings are the same for dative, instrumental, genitive, and prepositional. They always take oi and ye for all the oblique cases. Those four cases are called the oblique cases. So if we have hard stem and velar stem adjectives, they are going to take oi, к русской женщине, to the Russian woman, к молодой девушке, to the young lady. And then soft stem take ye, к последней студентке, to the last female student, к летней программе, to the summer program. And notice that the vowels are the same in all of the endings. So masculine neuter has omu yemu, feminine has oi ye. When masculine and neuter have an o as in omu, feminine is going to have oi. It's also going to have an o. When masculine and neuter have yemu, they have a ye. Feminine is also going to have a ye. It's going to have ye. And then we have the same complication with husher stem nouns. So if the stress falls on the stem, which is going to be most of them, we're going to add ye. К следующей студентке. К хорошей подруге. However, if the stress falls on the ending, as in большой, we're going to add ой к большой девочке. So for the singular, the 5-letter spelling rule was in effect. For the plural, the 7-letter spelling rule is going to be in effect. And what that means is that hard stem adjectives and hard stem adjectives only will take им. So к новым преподавателям, to the new instructors, к старым родителям, to the old parents, к красивым девушкам, to the beautiful young ladies. And note once again that the important thing is the case of the noun, but not its status as hard or soft. So if the noun is in the dative plural, the adjective will also be in the dative plural, but we can have soft stem nouns like преподаватель combined with hard stem adjectives like новый. And then soft stem, velar stem, and husher stem adjectives are all going to take im. Soft stem will because they are naturally soft, and then velar stem and husher stem will because we can't write after velars and hushers. So к последним преподавателям, soft stem, к летним программам, soft stem, к хорошим друзьям, husher stem, к большим зданиям, husher stem, к русским людям, velar stem. So on slide 5 of the PowerPoint, I have a chart of adjective endings. And I've divided them into masculine, neuter, because those are the same, feminine, and plural. And then you can see I have velar stem with both the hard stem and with the husher stem because the velar stem endings shift depending on whether they're singular or plural. So hard stem singular and velar stem singular adjectives are going to have the same endings. They're going to have omo for masculine and neuter and oi for feminine. However, in the plural, only hard stem adjectives are going to take im. Velar stem adjectives are going to end up with im. And then soft stem, we're going to have ему for masculine and neuter, ye for feminine, and im for plural. And then for husher stem and velar stem, in the singular, husher stem is going to have ему if it's not under stress, but omo if it is under stress. If for the masculine and neuter, it's going to have ye if it's not under stress, but oi if it is under stress for the feminine. And then in the plural, stress no longer matters, but both husher stem and velar stem adjectives are going to take им, хорошим, следующим, русским, большим. If that sounds confusing, I really recommend looking at the chart, and I also really recommend copying out the chart yourself by hand. There's no better way to memorize these things than to copy out the charts by hand. That really helps build up your muscle memory and give you this kind of spatial conception of how these things are interrelated. So if you're struggling to remember this, sit down and copy out the chart like 10, 15, 20 times, something like that. Preferably writing it out by hand on bits of scratch paper. It will really help. And then finally, on the last slide of the PowerPoint, I've included a chart of possessive and indicative pronouns, or what the textbook calls special modifiers. And it just kind of casually mentions them in this section, but I thought that a chart would be helpful for you. And they're a little bit tricky because they kind of have their own endings. I mean, they're recognizably the endings of that particular case, but they're also kind of their own endings. So let's look at them. Mój and twój are going to take soft endings, but they're going to be stressed. And they're going to be stressed all the way to the end, which means for the masculine and neuter, they're going to become mojemu, twojemu. The u is actually stressed. For feminine, it's moje, twoje. And then for plural, it's moim, twojim. Nasz, wasz are going to take husher stem endings, and in this case, the stress doesn't shift. It's very easy to deal with. Naszemu, waszemu, nasze, wasze, and naszym, waszym. Etyt is a little bit weird because it is hard stem in the singular and soft stem in the plural. So etamu with an o, for masculine and neuter, etoi with an o for feminine, but etim with an e, a soft e, for the plural. Tot is the same, but it's even a little bit weirder. So masculine and neuter is going to be tamu. Again, the stress shifts all the way out to the end on the u. Feminine is toi. And then the plural is tiem. There's no e, instead there's a ye. Tiem. Vies, all or the whole, is soft all the way through, but it's also a little bit strange. So masculine and neuter is vsiemu. Again, that stress shifts out to the u on the very end. Feminine is vsie, and then plural is vsiem, just like tiem, so we have a ye instead of an e. So once again, I recommend, if you're struggling to memorize this, to copy out the chart by hand. Write it out many times. That can really help you grasp the relationships between the different forms. It helps you just sort of build up that muscle memory so that when you go to write it, your muscles already know what to write. And it's kind of tedious and difficult, and one of the best ways to kind of drive stuff into your memory is through repetition under difficult circumstances. So it's helpful for things to be difficult and for you to kind of have to force yourself to do it and to struggle with it. And that will actually drive it into your memory in a way that doing things that are easier and more fun will not. With that in mind, if you're bored or you're struggling, if you go to some place that's kind of noisy, that can be really helpful. So experiment with that. If you're trying to memorize stuff, go to a noisy place. I guess we can't really go to coffee shops in quite the same way that we used to be able to, but if you can find some place that's kind of noisy and distracting and work on your memorization, that can actually be quite helpful because you have to concentrate harder and it will help drive those words into your brain.